Athonite Flowers, Essay 7. Ways Out of Loneliness for Young People. The Present Predicament. Let me remind you of certain important thoughts, whose sources are in forgotten texts of divine wisdom and love, through a brief description of the situation in which you live. It will give me great joy if I can inspire you and show you a way out of the loneliness that ravages so many young people. I want to convince you of the truth, but I also want to respect your divinely endowed free will. So, let us attempt to open a window through which we can look at the world together. You live in a noisy, impersonal world with many faces. Dialogue has been replaced by a myriad of voices proclaiming contradictory messages. Intoxicated by its massive conglomerations, the world has lost its personality and seems to be controlled by an overwhelming sense of herd mentality. In an apartment building, occupants do not know each other. The sense of neighborhood, where people shared things and doors were open, is now lost in huge urban housing complexes. Personal relationships have been reduced to an indifferent greeting in elevators and to a formal and hurried smile. People bump into each other in the streets. In buses, they are crowded together. In entertainment clubs, one cannot find a seat. In school, at home, in the store, everywhere, people carry their boredom and annoyance with them. People carry their boredom and annoyance with them, often without being conscious of it. This condition has become so familiar that it no longer draws our attention. The daily routine of endless preoccupation does not allow people to be alone with themselves or with God. Personal isolation and loneliness cannot be overcome by prescriptions of psychologists, sociologists, authors, or preachers. It requires personal struggle, an inner ordering of the self, a face-to-face confrontation with our existentially unknown identity. It also requires a courageous inner probing to find the pristine beauty of our souls and a humble reverence for God, who will teach us and help us. Moreover, we must go out of ourselves sincerely and honorably to meet others in a spirit of sacrifice, understanding, acceptance, and a sense of mutual self-fulfillment. In this way, our bitter loneliness can be transformed into a fertile resource, producing refreshing waters of incomparable attractiveness and activity. With our whole being thus deepened and fulfilled, we discover our hidden powers and the authenticity of our person, created in the image and likeness of God. Only the person whose inner life is well-balanced and well-ordered can have healthy relationships with others. These relationships begin with the help of God. They give us the potential for real conversation with ourselves and with others. Other people become concelebrants in the mystery of life, where we partake of each other through prayer, friendship, marriage, and mutual consolation in the turbulent journey of life. The first steps. Are you afraid? Think of God. Go to church and sit quietly in a corner. God can redeem you from your fears. Forgive me for not being more explicit, but I do not believe it is necessary. You must understand that your relationship with God is a personal matter. Even though it is very difficult, one must seek a good spiritual father to serve as a guide. It is not easy to open your soul to anyone. The soul of a man is an unfathomable mystery. One will be most fortunate to find a spiritual guide to respect, love, and trust, whose guidance can be followed with joy. The sooner this happens, the better. The first place in our heart is, of course, reserved for God. Those who lead us to serve Him as mediators. Those who lead us to Him serve as mediators. Sorry, I'm a little tired right now. They act with boldness, experience, knowledge, with the discernment they have of the ways which lead to God, and with the light shed upon those who call upon God. But, Father, who is this God, you may ask? We have not seen him, we have not heard him, we do not feel the need for him. He seems so far away. Does he really care about us? What need has he of us? What does he want of us? Can't our life go on without him, as do the lives of millions who ignore him? These are human questions customarily asked by young people. In the Roman Catholic tradition, the existence of God is demonstrated using natural reason. Because of this doctrine alone, I could never be a Roman Catholic. If God were someone like me but outside me, and simply a far superior individual, I would be obliged to forget him. If God acted like a prison guard, a tax collector, a vengeful old man of wealth, as he is presented to us by relatives, teachers, and clergymen, I would consider it my duty to disregard him completely. But God is not like that. Is it not true that, while many do not really want to be with the living God, neither can they live without him? 2 young men came to Mount Athos not long ago with unusual haircuts and clothing. Finding themselves out of place among a group of pilgrims who were being offered hospitality, the 2 young men stood aside and waited discreetly to talk to us at the end. These are exactly the first remarks of our dialogue. May we ask you something? Of course. If someone said to you that there is no God, what would you do to him? What would I do to him? Yes. Is this your own question, perhaps? And if we say that it is our question? And what if I say that it is also my own question? Your question, a monk? Yes, I do not believe in a God who has not appeared to us, a God who is a mere statue, a stranger, distant, inaccessible. We remained and talked for hours. When the 2 young men left the next day, they said, "And we had always imagined otherwise." It is true, many people imagine things to be other than what they are, and it is dishonorable to speak about something one does not know, to condemn the light, the life, the truth, to live in darkness and deception. It is narrow-mindedness. But this narrow-mindedness can be healed the moment you recognize it as such. However, as long as you consider it to be intelligence, freedom, and glory, it will continue to torment you. It is true that others have distanced us from God, often those who are called to gather us close to him. These are deplorable, dishonorable hypocrites who do not believe what they say, nor live by what they teach. But responsibility rests on many heads, and it is not far from our own. Each of us will have to render an accounting for our personal actions. What has happened in the past can be corrected today. Everyone talks about air pollution hanging over our cities, but no one seems to be doing anything about it. Is it our ignorance, cowardice, fear? What is indeed happening? The challenge of the Orthodox spiritual tradition. The Orthodox spiritual tradition has a legacy of holiness, and when followed authentically, exhibits a way of life that is dangerous. It does not promote the endless discussions of the scholastics, the definitions of the rationalists, and the pompous teachings of the moralists. The Orthodox spiritual tradition provides cool, refreshing water for the fields of our hearts, quenching our real thirst. The asceticism and profound humility of orthodoxy lead us to the firing range, to the launching pad. Orthodoxy is not the faithful observation of obligatory rules and regulations, nor is it exemplified by a liturgical guide to be scrupulously memorized. Rather, we are advised to keep silent and remain motionless. We should not speak for the sake of speaking, not even about God. Rather, we should seek to acquire a different way of life and let our new life speak for itself. Accepting and understanding others is one of the ways we restore the image of God in our nature and abolish loneliness. I know that everyone desires this, even if it is not expressed. We must put aside generalities and uncertainties. Alexander Papadiamantis has noted that, quote, every generality is rendered ridiculous by a particular reality, end quote. Another contemporary thinker wisely noted that if you attempt to see everything, you will probably see nothing, Ludwig Wittgenstein. Let us be more concrete, more concentrated, more attentive, simpler. Let us understand the importance of simplicity. Let us discipline ourselves and be satisfied with a disciplined self. According to St. Paul, we are to die on a daily basis. This really means that each of us must discipline ourselves to do what we want ourself to do, not what ourself wants of us. This is true freedom. This is the solution to the impasse. This issue is a very significant one. Think of it. Daily death means that my disciplined self is to be pleasing to God. I am not seeking being marveled at by other people. It is not necessary to understand everything all at once. When we do not understand something, let us place our reliance on sacred scripture and on the honorable struggle of holy men and women, and let us be satisfied to leave it incomprehensible. It will not be long before we will be illumined and will understand. But to distort or pervert meanings to make them correspond to our own ideas is egotistical pride, the beginning of error and heresy. No one joins the army to have a good time. Similarly, spiritual life, the life in Christ, is a constant struggle, agonizing effort. It is man-to-man combat, so to speak, where you may be wounded or even killed in order to be resurrected. And this can happen slowly or quickly, according to the loving will of God. God is constantly challenging man to give himself time, to calm down, to think, to stop living in a whirlwind. For God, it will suffice if a person recognizes and accepts his own difficult character, if a husband dedicates himself to his ailing spouse, if a teacher loves and tries to help students who appear incapable of improving, if a son understands his demanding and peculiar mother. It is difficult to be satisfied with little. Most people think that only great and unusual events give us prestige and recognition. They imagine that only the scientist or the missionary to Africa is a benefactor to society. They cannot see that Christ leaves the 99 sheep and goes out to the precipices to find the lost one. They imagine that God demands a great deal from us. In fact, he only demands that which we can do, but do not. He will not seek to harvest where he has not planted. God will not ask the stammerer why he did not become a preacher, the lame person why he did not become a long-distance runner. We will be held responsible for exactly what we could do, but for whatever reason failed to do. In our ongoing efforts, we will make mistakes. We will stumble, we will fall, but we must always get up again. Our Holy Orthodox Church has such room, such spaciousness. In the warmth of her embrace, there is a place for everyone. To stumble and fall is human. Not to get up is demonic. There is no sin that cannot be forgiven, no wound that cannot be healed. All that is needed is desire, to truly want it to happen. Our response to the challenge. A most important element in our meeting with God is the purity of our life. God unites himself only to those who are pure. St. Gregory the theologian reminds us that we must first be purified before we can speak with God. Abba Isaac emphasizes the need to be free of the bonds of materialism for union with God. As long as the mind remains careless and impure, God will not offer his mercy. With gradual cleansing, a sadness comes over our heart for our transgressions. At the same time, however, the heart begins to experience joy because the soul now has started to breathe, and to realize certain divine consolations. Prayer, of course, is most helpful in this spiritual cleansing, particularly the Jesus prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me, a sinner. It must be emphasized that the ascetical tradition of the Orthodox Church places great emphasis on purification of the heart, and that this is not attained by simply restructuring our external life. It is foolish to believe that one has restored a relationship with God simply by living an honorable life and avoiding sin. If passions remain undisturbed and well-rooted in the depths of the soul. The Holy Fathers recommend concrete therapeutic measures for liberation from the passions. If you accept the miracle that God became man, all other difficulties are diminished. God descended to earth so that man may ascend to heaven. God opened the way for man. It has now become relatively easy. With the resurrection of Christ, death was defeated. Faith empowers the believer to mock the devil, death, evil, and every loneliness. Only the true man of God thinks about his immortal soul. He rejoices in giving. He does not anticipate any repayment. He has one purpose, to be saved. He loves because he is wide awake and intelligent. He harbors no laziness, divisions, hesitations, anxiety, or doubts. He enjoys obedience. He does nothing halfway. He understands and keeps silence. He is genuine and sincere. Of course, at any time, God could intervene dynamically in our lives and make us be good, whether we want to or not. But this approach is not in the plan of God's love. Holiness is not given. Opportunities are given constantly, but we must take advantage of them. With every step we take, God takes 10. But we must take the first step. God does not intervene in a dictatorial manner. He is unimaginably noble and sensitive, but the subjective element in our approach to him is imperative. Our contribution to the struggle for salvation is necessary for getting started. Selfish love for our neighbor, a bad love of ourself, approaching others to avoid our own existential questions, all intensify our loneliness until it becomes a virtual prison. The vulgarity of the world rests on the fact that it lives for nothing, and this brings tears to every person who has turned to God. It seems that I have allowed myself to fall into what I previously criticized, generalities. When one comes to the monastery, one of the first realizations is that his entire previous life has been but a punch in the stomach of God, which God simply caresses. When this is realized, nothing is left but constant weeping. No one can talk about God and convince others. God is not demonstrated and proven to others. God reveals himself mystically in the hearts of people at times and in places we least expect. God speaks. In quiet places, God speaks loudly. In noisy places, he speaks very softly. And this may be the reason we rarely hear him there. Perhaps, however, it is that we do not really want to hear him. Let us be careful not to diminish the significance of things we do not understand. Everything is difficult before the revelation, the new way of life. Acquaintance with God is truly a miracle, tremendous yet simple. It is a miracle of light that makes us forget our earlier darkness. From a leper we become healthy. From an ignorant person we become wise. We acquire wings, new vision, a new sense of hearing. But we must not forget Icarus, the strong light that blinds and the thunderous silence that deafens. Some practical principles. Please forgive my attempts at poetic expression. There is great peace in silence. Speak comfortably with others without compromising your principles. According to Abba Isaac, we are to be a friend as well as a stranger to everyone. Express your opinion without imposing it. Listen to the others even when they sound boring and foolish. They too have their pain, their story to tell, and Christ has shed his precious blood for them as well. Abba Isaiah warns us not to compare ourselves with others. It is a dangerous game. If you say that you are better than another, you fall into pride. If you say that you are worse, you fall into fatalism, inferiority, despair. Be vitally concerned with progress in your studies and your work, but also be aware that everyone, a cobbler, a street cleaner, can also be a hero and a saint. See to it that you are who you actually are. Do not pretend to be good, for it is a burdensome illness that leads to death. At the same time, do not fall into cynicism where love is concerned. Do not hurry and do not delay. Be as gentle and polite with yourself as you are austere and demanding. Do not idle away your time, and do not tire yourself with programmatic endeavors that cannot be sustained. Weariness and loneliness can quickly destroy health. Be reconciled with God. Be reconciled with yourself. Be reconciled with others in your life, and no one will ever be able to take away the peace from your heart. Saint Seraphim of Sarov declared, "Find peace in your heart, and thousands will be saved around you." One seen it as offering little to society can, with this peace alone, acquire endurance and show signs of transfiguration, capable of transforming much evil and ugliness in the world. Certain elderly monks on Mount Athos teach us by their very appearance. Their serenity, calmness, and peace are a thundering sermon, particularly to the young visitors on Mount Athos, who, by the grace from God, can discern the authentic, the wholesome, the pure. You may be good, but you can become better. You may be few, but do not fear. A single person can keep and protect the truth, as we know from church history. The power of the Spirit does not depend on numbers. It is truly sad to see that many young people today are disoriented, unfocused, inconsistent. Yet they have the potential to accomplish a great deal. It is a shameful pity to see them overwhelmed by a spirit of laziness and indifference, with an attitude that says, "Never mind, I don't care about anything." To have one opinion about everything, to know only the half of many things, to say to all yes or no to everything, these are signs of confusion, indecisiveness, and spiritual bankruptcy. When you become tired of all these, when you begin to be preoccupied with the one, with God, with yourself, with others, then it becomes possible for something significant to begin. In closing, I would like to offer thoughts of two holy fathers on the subject we have been discussing. St. John Chrysostom advises that it is not good to be too bold or too despairing. To be rashly daring makes us fall. To be overly despairing, when fallen, does not allow us to get up. Abba Dorotheos often speaks about the gift of balance and measure, of peace and of humility. He advises us to be constantly seeking peace. With peace in our hearts, he tells us, we can help others. And he continues, we should always strive to maintain a state of calmness and peace, so that our hearts are neither blurred nor confused. Let us keep the shutter of the window which we opened together always open. The world is, unfortunately, no longer an adornment, but fallen and confused. Nevertheless, we can break the crust of this fallen world and help it breathe more freely. It is possible to transform its loneliness through self-knowledge, remembrance of God, and study. and let us prepare for the journey to meet God and his creation, and may the world be a garden where this becomes reality. These, then, are a few thoughts offered with love as a bouquet of flowers from Mount Athos, the garden of the blessed Theotokos.